Amen. All right, kiddos, have a great time downstairs. We're excited to see what God is going to do through our kids. If you have your Bibles or your Reconcile app, you can meet me in the Song of Songs, chapter 2. Can you believe we're already in week 3 of this 10-week sermon series, and we're on the topic of courtship. And I was thinking about this week. I want to talk today about how Solomon and his darling, how they experience courtship. But I was fascinated because we've all seen these videos and these sort of animal documentaries. Animals are just as concerned about courting as humans are. And what I find interesting is that the romantic love cycle is just as important to the animal kingdom as it is to the human world. And some of the courtship rituals in the animal kingdom give humans a run for our money. You know, male animals dance and sing, they fight other males, they roar, they growl, they flex body parts and a host of other behaviors in order to attract the spouse. But one of the most fascinating of all is the male peacock styling and profiling and strutting and shimmying to woo a female. There's what peacocks do, male peacocks do is they show their feathers. They do that in order to entice a woman to come and be a spouse and to mate with them. And peacocks do this about as good as any. I don't think there's any human who does anything as good as what male peacocks do. But even the male peacock knows, hey, I gotta lay it all on the line if I'm going to attract a woman to want to be my spouse, and then we have some little peacocks together. So if the animal kingdom gets it, how much more should we get it? So let's explore this idea of courtship together as Solomon sort of lays this out for us in the Song of Songs, chapter 2. Last week we talked about dating, and this week we want to transition because the next phase. So again, we're gonna work this out logistically and logically. Week 1 was about attraction, because the first thing that happens in the romantic love cycle is that we're attracted to someone, and we can't control who we're attracted to. How many movies have we seen where someone had said what sort of man or woman they're attracted to, and then in the movie or in the television show, they end up with somebody who's the exact opposite of what they said they were attracted to? Why? Because we can't help who we're really attracted to. You can tell yourself all you want. This is the portrait, this is the picture of the man or woman that I'm attracted to. And something natural and innate happens within you, and you find yourself with somebody else. I never thought that I'd be married to a Caucasian-looking Jewish woman. If you would have told me that as a teenager, I would have told you were out of your mind. Now, I dated, in Los Angeles, I dated a lot of ethnic diversity. White girls and black girls and Hispanic girls and Asian girls. I was an equal opportunity dater because this is Los Angeles and this is a diverse city. If you told me I was going to marry a Jewish woman, I would have told you, I don't think that's going to happen. But you can't help who you're attracted to. This is going to be fun because I'm going to tell you guys for the first time on the record the moment I knew I was going to marry Stacy. And you're going to laugh and you're going to fall out of your seats because this is totally unpastoral, but it's true. So we start with attraction, and then once we figure out we're attracted to someone, we try to figure out if they're attracted to us, and if they're attracted to us, then we decide we want to go out on a date, maybe go to a movie, go grab dinner, or go for a walk, go for a hike, whatever. And so we start dating, and dating is this no strings attached, non-exclusive. It's an in and of itself. It's a marketing enterprise, and so we're observing that person to try to see if there's anything substantive, if there's there's any character, if there's any godly integrity, if there's any reason why we should be considering this person for where we are today, which is in the courtship process. And courtship is the third phase of that. So attraction, dating, and here we are in courtship. So last week, Solomon and his girl, his darling, he calls her, his beautiful darling, they went out on 2 dates last week, remember? They went for a picnic in the grass, and then Solomon took her to a banquet of wine, right? And she said, his banner over me was love. So they've been dating for a while, and here we find them in courtship. And so let's talk about courtship. And the first movement in verses 8 through 14 is this. It's springtime in their relationship. And so look at the language, the poetic language, and I'll break down where what's happening in the text. Verses 8 and 9, let's just start with the opening verses. The woman is still speaking from last week, and she says, listen. She wants you to perk your ears up. She says, can you listen? Can you hear that? What is that? It's my love. My love is Solomon. He's approaching. Look, here he comes, leaping over the mountains and bounding over the hills. She says, my love is like a gazelle or a young stag, a young buck. Remember, he called her a female deer and a gazelle. She calls him a gazelle, but he's a male deer. He's a buck. He's a stag. See, he's standing behind the wall of our home, and he's gazing through the windows and peering through the lattice. The woman likens Solomon to a gazelle, a young stag, a young buck, leaping and frolicking and skipping over the hills and mountains coming to see her. The language highlights both the swiftness and joyfulness with which Solomon comes to her home for a visit. This picture of this house is a lattice. You guys have seen these. These are like wooden windows that you peer through. There's nothing to them, but they're cross-shaped and you can see through them. This is what Solomon is standing at the wall of their house. He can't get in, and he's standing behind the wall, and he's looking through the window and through the lattice, and he's trying to see if his darling is in there. I love this because Tremper Longman III says this about verses 8 and 9. He says that Solomon is moving with agile grace and speed toward his beloved. The scene evokes a sense of excitement and eagerness. These two words are found together frequently in Hebrew poetry, and they're roughly to be taken as synonyms. They communicate that the lover overcomes obstacles in his desire to reach his beloved. This is an indication of his loving commitment, his determination to make a rendezvous. Sisters, if your lover is not overcoming obstacles to see you, if he's not excited, if he's not eager and enthusiastic to spend time with you, to look in your eyes, to hear your thoughts, your dreams, your perspectives, your insights, then he's not God's choice for you. If he's most excited by getting you in the horizontal position, he's definitely not God's choice for you. Solomon is leaping and skipping and frolicking over the mountains, their obstacles, their barriers, at least geographically, coming from where Solomon is coming to her house. But notice he overcomes the barriers, and he does so with an eagerness, an excitement, and an enthusiasm. You see what I did with those E's? I think you know that you're with someone who you should be thinking about as a future spouse when that guy shows up to see you, ladies, and he's excited to see you. He don't pull up mad like, what you want to do today? Like he'd rather be somewhere else. That's a sign. Take note of that. I was telling Stacy every time we went somewhere, I was glad we were going. We had a simple dating and courtship. We was eating and doing entertainment. All we did was watch movies. I worked at 20th Century Fox, so they had free screenings, employee screenings all the time. And so we went to screenings all the time. And if we weren't at a screening, we were at the Twin Dragon Chinese restaurant, because she lived right there in Beverly Hills, and we loved Twin Dragon. And so if we weren't at Twin, we were at a movie theater. We had a simple life, and we were happy about it. It was never a burden for me to go and hang out with Stacy. Not for the 5 years we were together. I rushed to do that. And here's Solomon showing this excitement to get with his girl. I love that. So let's look at verse 10, just the A part of verse 10. Solomon is standing behind the wall, that he's looking through the windows and the lattice trying to get a hold of her. And then just the A part of verse 10, she says, "My love calls to me." Solomon is standing out there, and he calls to his darling. And I wonder how sweet that was, and I wonder how cool it was. Notice that Solomon is the king, but he doesn't barge in. He calls to her, and he waits to be invited in. A man that doesn't honor the parents or authority figures in a home is likely a man who doesn't respect authority and will likely reject God's authority in his life. So sisters, beware. Notice that Solomon respects the fact that his girl lives with her mother, and so he waits to be invited in. He calls out to her and says, "My sweetness, my darling, my beautiful one, I'm out here. I'm here to see you." Solomon's a king. He could have just kicked the door down, but he's a respectful individual, and we want our daughters to be married or courting guys who are respectful of parents, of the woman's parents, or authority figures. If they live with somebody else who's not their parent but is an authority figure, they respect that, and they respect those boundaries. Now, in verses 10b through 13, Solomon invites his darling to come away with him, and it forms an inclusio between the B part of verse 10 and the B part of verse 13. Look at this. Solomon invites her to him. Again, he doesn't impose himself on her. Notice he says in the B part of verse 10, he says, "Arise, my darling, and come away, my beautiful one." This is an invitation. Solomon says, "Hey, I'm out here, and we haven't seen each other for a while. It's come away with me. Do you have time to go for a little rendezvous, for a meetup? I've missed you so much." Look at verse 11. Look at what Solomon says. He says, "For now the winter is past. The rain has ended and is gone away." Verse 12, "The blossoms appear in the countryside. The time of singing has come, and the turtle doves cooing is heard in our land. The fig tree ripens its figs, and the blossoming vines give off their fragrance." And here's the inclusio: "Arise, my darling, come away with me, my beautiful one." Solomon says winter is gone and the rain has ended. Solomon's exuberance is palpable. Why? Because winter likely made it difficult for the couple to spend time together due to inclement weather. The winter months in the Holy Land are October through April, and it's cool and a rainy season. Gets really cold. And so now that October and April is behind them, it's probably May or June for them, and it's springtime. They can renew their attraction and their affection for one another again. And Solomon has just been thinking, hey, it's been difficult for us to see each other during these 6 cold and rainy winter months, but it's springtime now. And I've come over the mountains and over the hills, and I'm ready to see you. Come away with me. Sisters, during the courtship phase, you should be observing whether your man is, again, genuinely excited to see you. Is he skipping like Solomon? Is he breaking his neck to peek at you? Not as a peeping Tom, but as a lover who's crazy about you. Is there a sense of urgency, a quickness? Is he in a hurry to see you? The signs of springtime, not just in their land, but in their relationship. The blossoms are sprouting in the countryside. The migrant birds have returned and they're singing. The fig trees are producing ripe figs. The blossoming vineyards are noticeable because of the fragrant scent they give off. It's springtime in their land and in their relationship. And Solomon is inviting his darling, his beautiful one, to come and have a little rendezvous. Then in verse 14, Solomon acknowledges something important about his beautiful one, this darling. And it's written poetically, but let me just articulate what Solomon is saying. Verse 14, he calls her his dove. My dove is in the cleft of the rock and the crevices of the cliff. Let me see your face. Let me hear your voice. For your voice is sweet and your face is lovely. Solomon likens his darling to a dove hidden and protected in the clefts of rock or the crevices of a cliff. I think Dwayne Garrett said this really well. I gave this quote to you in your slides. He says, "Here, however, the woman herself is not." He says, "Here, however, the woman herself and not her eyes is called a dove." Because remember earlier, Solomon talked about her eyes were like a dove. Here he portrays her nesting high in the crags and rocky cliffs, far away from human contact. The main point being that she is out of reach. The motif of the woman's inaccessibility appears repeatedly in the man's psalm. He cannot get to her. For them to come together, she must come out to him or open the door to him or descend to him. I love that assessment because that's exactly what we should get out of verse 14. I want you to notice that Solomon recognizes that this woman is hard to get to. She's not easily accessible. That her family and her friends, and we'll see this as the story moves forward, her mother and her brothers are very protective of this young lady. Can I just camp out there? It's important that our young girls, our young teenagers, and our young women aren't loose and aren't easily accessible. It's the family's job to limit a girl's access in the dating and courtship period. Even Solomon is saying, man, you're like my darling is like a dove hidden in the cleft of the rocks. I'm even having a problem accessing her. Sure, they've gone out on some dates, but she's hidden behind the wall. Remember? She's in her mother's home, and Solomon says, I can't. You got to come out to me. I'm not going to barge my way in. There's all throughout the story, Solomon is telling us that God's divine design is that our girls have limited access to their guys, not more access. I'm talking to my own girls through this because I want to watch this back with my own girls. And here that is a principle that's going to be reiterated over and over. Eventually, her brothers are going to chime in about how they've protected their little sister. That's the family's job. So we need to restrict access, not just open up the floodgates and say, oh, well, they're an adult now. They're 18, they're 19, they're 20, they're 21. No, we need to restrict access, not give more of it. I know that doesn't sound cool, but that's clearly in the text. I love this too here that Solomon says, I want to see your face. I want to hear your voice. I've missed you over the winter months. I want to see you and I want to hear you. Tommy Nelson says this in his book. He says, my advice to young women is this. Don't press for commitment. but do press for communication. Solomon wants to talk to her. I mean, he says to her in the verse, he says that your voice is sweet and your face is lovely. He wants to communicate with this woman. She's just not a beautiful woman to be looked at and admired, but Solomon says, I want to hear your voice. Tell me your dreams. Tell me your aspirations. Tell me your hopes, your plans for the future. I want to hear all of it. Our women should take note of a man who doesn't have much communication. And Tommy Nelson says, don't press for a commitment, press for communication. Why is that important? Because if a man will communicate his feelings, then you can discern his commitment. Let me say that again. If a man will communicate his feelings to you, then you can gauge and put a barometer on his commitment. But if he can't communicate how he feels about you, then you've got your answer about his commitment level. And men don't do well with communication. That's why I want to mentor men, that we have to lead the way with communication. And notice Solomon wants communication. He's expressed himself over and over again in this text about how he feels about this woman. Is anybody unsure about how Solomon feels about her? Absolutely not. He's made it crystal clear, not just with his actions, but with his words. And so our women need to press men to make sure that the communication is tight, because if the communication is tight, then you will get a sense for what his commitment level is if he communicates. That's an important premise that I think flows out of verse 14. Now, let's move to the second movement. There are 5 in today's passage as we let the courting begin. The second one is a critically important one in verse 15 of chapter 2. Now, we're not sure who's talking here. We're not sure if Solomon is speaking here, or if his beautiful darling is speaking, or if somebody else is speaking, or if they're both speaking. But that's irrelevant. The principle is crystal clear. Look at verse 15, and don't you ever, 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 ever forget this principle. They say, catch the foxes for us, the little foxes that ruin and corrupt and destroy and annihilate the vineyards, for our vineyards are in bloom. Pay attention to that all-important caution for us. During the winter months, the vineyards are barren. With the return of spring, the vineyards are ripening again, and here come the little foxes. There's an image here of a fox ready to nibble on some grapes hanging in a vineyard. I was doing some research, and vineyard damage by foxes, some estimates suggest, depending upon one, the rarity of the growing region, and 2, the difficulty of the farming, and 3, the grape variety. But some estimates say damages that foxes can do to a vineyard can range anywhere from $2,000 to $10,000 per square acre. Damages stem from direct fruit consumption, trampling of roots, and digging that destabilizes the vine's root systems. Foxes also create wounds in the grapes that invite fungal rot, which rapidly degrades crop value. What are the small foxes that have crept into the vineyard of your relationship that are hell-bent on wreaking havoc? Foxes are opportunistic omnivores. They eat meat and fruits and vegetables. Their primary prey consists of small mammals like mice and voles and rats. They also heavily rely on rabbits and hares, along with supplementing their diet with birds and insects, eggs, and fruit, which is why they love vineyards. But what are the small foxes that have crept into the vineyard of your relationship that are, again, hell-bent on ruining and destroying, corrupting, and causing havoc in your relationship. I'll just point out to you that when Solomon says, catch the foxes, the small foxes that ruin the vineyard, ruin is in the PL verb stem in the Hebrew. You guys remember this from Genesis. To put something in the PL is to put an action on steroids. So they don't just cause a little problem, they destroy, they annihilate vineyards. So what are the small foxes in your relationship? Is it anger? Is it anxiety? Is it addiction? Is it abuse? Is it annoying habits? Is it somebody struggling with body image? Is it an eating disorder? Is it depression? Is it physical illness? Is it pornography, sexual promiscuity? Is it stress? Is it suspicions that your spouse is cheating on you? Are there unrealistic expectations? Are there financial failures? Is there a lack of social support in your relationship? Is there a lack of maturity on somebody's part? Is there instability in the relationship? Is there spiritual incompatibility? Are there difficulties with communication styles? What are the small foxes? Solomon and this woman, after winter break, where they had limited access to each other, it's springtime, and they say, hey, as we come back together and rekindle our relationship, we can't, and as our relationship blossoms, because it's springtime in the relationship, and as the grapes begin to grow on our vines, we've got to be careful, we've got to be mindful, we've got to be cognizant, we got to be vigilant about the small foxes. The big foxes ain't worried about grapes. They out catching rabbits and mice and animals. It's the little ones that creep into the vineyard, the small thing, not the big stuff. It's the small foxes. You don't got to worry about the big ones. What are the little things that will ruin the vineyard of your relationship? Guys, that is a critical warning, admonition, a caution. I'm dealing with so many couples where relationships are strained, people are opting for divorce, and all of it's just a whole bunch of small foxes that they've allowed to set up shop in their they've been around so long, they've made foxholes. They live in the vineyard. They don't come and go because we hadn't run them out. You got to catch the foxes. They got free food. They eating off the grapes in our relationship vineyard, and we just letting them destroy our relationship. And we gotta call them out. We gotta name them, and then we gotta get them out of the vineyard. And I just don't see people putting in the work to do that. That requires work. Getting with your pastor, getting with a marriage and family therapist, getting with an accountability team and doing the work. You ain't going to pray the foxes out of your relationship. You gotta catch them. You gotta call them, and you gotta name them, and you gotta get them out of there. I love this because Tommy Nelson says this about, I think this is one of those foxes. He says, if the one you're courting is resentful of your abilities and talents, jealous of your skills or achievements, uptight about your weaknesses or a lack of ability in an area, Tommy Nelson says, take note of that. The two of you may have much in common and respect each other, but you may not fit together well for the long haul of a marriage. That's the myth of, well, we've got so much in common. You know, why are you with that guy? Why are you with that girl? Something seems off about that. This doesn't seem like a good fit. And you know what the response is? But we have so much in common. That don't mean diddly squat. That doesn't make you a good fit. And a good fit is not a reason to be with somebody. I mean, having a lot in common is not a good reason to be with somebody. Because at some point, what you have in common changes. Because here's the myth nobody told me about. The person you marry is not the person they're going to be in 15 years or 20 years or 30 years. People change. So if you think that, oh, I'm courting him or her and we're so in love, they're going to be different in 30 years because I'm different after 28 years and Stacy's show is different. Sometimes I look at her and I say, who is this? Because she's different. When a woman starts having kids, and things change. Her psyche changes, her hormones change, how she sees the world change, and how she look at you changes. The brothers that have been married with kids, y'all should be saying amen real loud in this place. But the guys change too. Thank you, sister. She knows because she's been married a long time. The brothers change too. So don't get wrapped up in who they are because the person you marry, they are evolving every year. So just because you got a lot in common now, that may change. And then what do you got? Stacy and I don't eat and go to movies like we used to. We got other priorities. We got other kids that want you to feed them and do stuff for them. So we don't have those kind of... Can you imagine if we banked everything on going to movies and having dinners? We wouldn't be married today. So you're constantly ebbing and flowing and flexing in a marriage because people change. And Tommy Nelson pointed out the myth of we've got so much in common. Question is, are you a good fit? And can you, when they change, will you love them and love them in who they're becoming, not in who they are? See, I just saved somebody. I helped somebody today. Because that's the reality. I learned that when nobody told me that when I was getting married to Stacy. Nobody told me she was going to change like that. Nobody told me I was going to change either. So I'm helping somebody. Don't say I didn't tell you because I did. Now, this is one of the most beautiful verses in probably all the Bible, but especially in the Song of Solomon. The whole book hinges on verse 2:16. Look at this. Here, because we're transitioning now, just this one verse to this unshakable security. Can I camp out right here? The woman says this, and these are her words. I love this. She says, my lover is mine and I am his, and he feeds among the lilies. The woman knows, she's convinced, she's assured that Solomon is hers and she is his. Courtship is a season for developing the us and we identity. Decreasingly, you and me to us and we. This woman is clear. Not only do we love each other, not only do we have affection and attraction and affirmation, but I have no doubt whatsoever in my mind that dude is mine and I am his. That's God's divine design for romantic relationships, where we get to the place where we say, I'm yours and you are mine. When Stacy came to faith and was baptized and we were doing discipleship with Jews for Jesus, we decided that this verse would be our relationship verse, and we commemorated that commitment with these rings. So you guys have probably seen me wear this ring. It's not my wedding ring, but Stacy got these rings for us because I got her an engagement ring, but I didn't have a ring, and I was complaining about it, acting like a little baby. Why do you get to have platinum and diamonds? I don't have anything. So Stacy got these rings, and on these rings, it's written in Hebrew, the Song of Solomon. This same verse is written on these rings. I've been wearing this ring for 25 years. Even before we were married, we knew that we belonged to each other. And when the going gets tough, and the going has gotten tough, when you start wondering if the relational and romantic grass is greener on the other side, when you're thinking about divorce, but you never say it. You look down and you remember that person, where am I going? I belong to you and you belong to me. This is messy. This is hard. I don't like you and I'm going to be sleeping on the couch for a few days because I don't even want to be close to you. But even in that, you're still mine and I'm yours. Guys, I'm talking today. That's where we got to get to. And we were there in 2001, 2002. It's 2026. We knew back then that we belonged to each other. It's been 28 years total, almost 23 years of marriage, and we've never doubted that we belong to each other. Not a once. Because I'm crazy about that woman, and she knows it. And she won't admit it, but she's crazy about me too. She won't admit it. I can admit it because it doesn't bother me. I'm a fool for her, and I will tell God that. She's a little reluctant to admit that, but you don't have to worry about it. I know. So a funny story. I've never admitted this in person, but the moment when I knew that I was going to marry Stacy, when we were dating, when we were going on our first dates, I would drive myself to a particular restaurant or to the movie, and she would drive herself, and we met up and we went on and did our thing. Well, I remember the first time that we were going somewhere together, and I may have dropped my car off at her house, and she was going to drive us somewhere. And I remember the first time I got in her car, that was the moment when I knew I was going to marry that girl. And you want me to tell you how I knew? Because when I got in the car, when I opened up the door, and as soon as I opened up the door, what I heard blaring out of the radio and out of the speakers was Death Row Records' greatest hits. When I heard Snoop Dogg and Dre and Tupac, that's when I knew. I said, as soon as I sat down in the seat, I said, Lord, let me work this out. I want to marry this one. That gangster rap, that's when I knew that hip hop and R&B, all throughout her. She had a 10-disc CD changer back, and Stacy had a brand new car, fully paid. She had the pink slip, and as long as we were in the car, everything I was listening to, she had in the deck. I reminded her about this last night. She laughed. She said, tell your brother that I want my Death Row greatest, because I told my brother Stacy had the Death Row Records greatest hits. It was like a 2-disc set. And my brother asked Stacy to borrow it. Stacy let my brother borrow it and never returned it. And so Stacy reminded me 25 years later, tell your brother I want my CD set back. But I knew then. That's how it wasn't when she was baptized, when she came to faith. None of that. It was Death Row Records. I remember like it was yesterday. As my grandmama would say, I'm going to my grave with that one. My prayer was, Jesus, let this woman be my wife. She's cute. She's smart. She lived on the honor roll. I don't think Stacy was in school one semester and didn't make the honor roll. So she's cute, she's smart, and she listened to what I listened to. Now, I was a new believer. I hadn't come to grips with the gangster rap and all of the stuff and how incompatible that was with me following Jesus. I was only 22 years old. I was just a couple of years into my faith. I don't listen to it like I used to. I listen to it now because I like the beats and I like the rhyme. I don't care nothing about the lyrics because it's garbage. And they're promoting values that I don't promote, but I just like the art form. But boy, when I got in that car, I don't even remember where we went. All I know is what we were listening to wherever we went. She laughed when I reminded her about that because she knows it's true. But God's divine design is this unshakable security. And if you don't feel like you belong to someone and that they belong to you, they know it, you know it, that's not God's choice for you. So as we transition to this, all good things must come to an end. Whatever this rendezvous is, she sends Solomon home. I'm going to make an important point here, but look at this. The woman says, until the day breaks and the shadows flee, turn around, Solomon, my love, and be like the gazelle and the young stag that you are on the divided mountains. She's sending Solomon home. After this brief visit, you ain't got to go home, but you got to leave here. Notice that Solomon went home. The woman lives at home with her mother and her brothers. Can I just talk about the 8,000-pound elephant here and she's sending Solomon home? Can I talk about cohabitation? Shacking up and cohabitation is not God's divine design for romantic relationships pre-marriage. Don't ask God to sanction your progress toward marriage if you're, as my aunt would say, shacking and packing. A former colleague in ministry used to say, God won't bless a mess. And so many people are living together, preparing for marriage. And then we want God to bless that. How? Solomon didn't spend the night. He went home. And who sent him home? Not her mama, the woman, his girl sent him home. She said, look, this has been great. We've rekindled our relationship after a long winter. It's springtime in our relationships. We're going to name and catch all these foxes and get them out of our relationships. We're growing and progressing in the deep affection of our love. I belong to you, you belong to me, but you got to go home. I know that that's not culturally appropriate, but again, we're talking about God's divine design, right? We're not talking about the culture. We're talking about God. Now, I love the parrots who are the authors of Symbols, and I'm going to weave in wisdom from them because these are the people who have written our premarital counseling material that we use in this church. Look at what they say about the dangers of cohabitation. Symbols says that some research suggests cohabitation before marriage increases the risk of divorce. Scott Stanley, a co-director of the Center for Marital and Family Studies at the University of Denver, calls cohabitation relationship inertia. It happens when couples end up spending more and more time together until finally all of the stuff gets moved into one person's place. People who are cohabitating might end up married. He says people who are cohabitating might end up marrying somebody they might not otherwise have married. They're sliding, not deciding about marriage. You end up sliding into marriage because it's convenient, it's easy, and, well, I already live here, or you already live here. Let's just go ahead and get married. That's called sliding into marriage, not deciding. So you decide when you live in different places and you decide to come together as one couple, as one flesh. But when you're already living together, you didn't decide to get married. You slid into getting married. And the couples that do that increase the likelihood of their divorce. I'm just saying. It's not good. That's not God's will and not God's way. And Solomon and the Song of Solomon points that out as she sends him home. So parents, we don't advocate for our kids to live with somebody who they're not married to. Little boys and girls, they play house. I'll be the mama and you be the daddy. That's what little kids do. And then they pretend, and then they have a little doll, and that's our baby. That's what little kids do. 5-year-olds, 6-year-olds, they play house. We got grown folks playing house. I be the mama and you be the daddy, and we gonna have and then we want God to sanction that. Guys, I don't know what we're doing. I lived at home until I was 27. Me and my brother shared a room. For 27 years of my life, the two people who know me on this planet better than anybody else is my brother, because we lived together in the same room for 27 years. The day I moved out of my parents' house, I married Stacy. So I'm traumatized because I've never had a room all to myself, because I shared a room with my brother and then I shared a room with Stacy. I'd love to know what it's like to just have your own. So I'm jaded in some way. I understand that, but I didn't live with Stacy. I lived at home. Now I spent late nights at Stacy's house, way too late than I should have, until I learned better. She came to faith, we got right with God, and then we ended them late nights. But I still went home, and I still lived at home. We've got to end this idea that, oh, well, it just makes sense financially. Why should we both be paying rent? We should just pay one rent. Why should you pay rent? I pay rent. We're doubling our rent. Let's just cut it in half and let's just live under the same roof. Good luck with that. And parents, let's not get behind that, because I'm telling you from the Song of Solomon, that is not God's will and his way. Now, the last movement is this fascinating, passionate dream that this woman has. She has sent Solomon away, and now she's dreaming about him. Look at what happens in her dream as she's seeking this passionate and sexual expression. And I'm telling you from the outset that this is a dream. It's happening on her bed. Look at verse 1 of chapter 3. She says, in my bed. The Hebrew says night after night after night after night. This is not one night. This is a reoccurring occurrence. Night after night, I sought Solomon, the one I love. The Hebrew says the one my soul loves. She says, I sought him, but I did not find him. So this woman is having a dream about looking for Solomon. And notice she says that in the Hebrew that Solomon is the one my soul loves. I love this by Dwayne Garrett again. He gives us some insight as to what's happening here. He says, this indicates, this first verse and this story in these 5 verses, this indicates a nocturnal yearning for sexual fulfillment and for the companionship of a man. It should not be taken to mean that she's actually expected to find her lover in her bed. What she describes, simply enough, is the desire one experiences when sleeping alone. Her words both reflect desire for the specific man whom she already loves and refers to her loneliness in bed and to her desire for affection and for a husband. The yearning and the agitation of the young woman are the actual focus here. She is missing Solomon, and because she had to send him home, she's dreaming about him night after night after night. Can I just also point out that she says that Solomon is the one that my soul loves. When you love a person with your soul, at the core of your being, with all that you are, this is a positive sign that you're progressing toward marriage. And here she has that. She loves Solomon with every ounce of energy, with everything that she is. Now, let's breeze through these 3 verses together, and then we'll pause again at verse 5. She says in verse 2, I will arise now and go about the city through the streets and the plazas, and I will seek the one my soul loves. She says, I sought him, but I did not find him. Verse 3, the guards who go about the city, the watchmen, found me, and I asked them, have you seen the one that my soul loves? And I had just passed the watchman when I found the one that my soul loves. I held on to him and would not let him go until I brought him to my mother's house, to the chamber of the one who conceived me. So strangely, in her dream, she goes about the city in the dead of the night, which is extremely unsafe, looking for the person that her soul loves, but she can't find him, and the watchmen or the guards are no help. To her surprise, after questioning the watchman, she finds the person her soul loves. She held on tight to him like as if her life depended on it, and she would not let him go. That's until she brought him to her mother's house. The woman wants to engage in sexual intimacy with Solomon, which is the same act that her parents enjoyed, which led to her conception. And so she's experiencing this ecstasy, this rapture, this sexual passion, and she's longing for it on her bed at night, waiting for the day that she can express herself through intimacy with Solomon. Now, this verse 5 is a restatement of chapter 2, verse 7. But let's read it anyway, because it's a reoccurring theme in this book. She said it in chapter 2, verse 7. She says it again because it begs repeating. Young women of Jerusalem, I charge you by the gazelles and the wild does of the field, do not stir up or awaken love until the proper time. Remember, she calls on her crew to help her persevere in her purity. Remember, we said last week that sexual purity is a team game and not an individual sport. She is losing it on her bed, struggling with her sexual passion for Solomon. And so in her dream, she's asking the same young women she was asking in 2:7 to help her, because she wants to just blow through the fact that she's not married, and she wants to express that even in pre-marriage. And she's saying, I need you guys to help me. Left to my own devices, I might do something that I would regret. Sisters, will you please help me maintain my purity here? Now, let me give you one final quote here, and then we'll do this. I want to read Ian Proven's statement here. This is a little long, but this was so good. I wanted to share it with you. Ian, a professor, says this. He says, the Song of Songs thus lauds romance while reminding us not to be romantic about a world in which coercion and violence all too often marks human affairs. It praises sexual intimacy while reminding us that sexual activity is not itself intimacy and can express the opposite. I love how he makes the distinction between sexual intimacy and sexual activity. He says it also summons us to repentance, however. By presenting us with an ideal we constantly fail to achieve, whether individually or society. It's almost certain that among the readers of this commentary, there will be some who are addicted to pornography. Some have visited prostitutes, and perhaps even some have raped, inflicted social violence on their wives, or sexually abused a child. There will be many who have failed to love their spouse as equals before God and give themselves wholly and unreservedly to their spouses in loving and sexual intimacy. The dark side of sexuality affects all of us in one way or another. The Song of Songs calls us to repentance and to a determination to live differently before God and our fellow human beings. It calls us to place the erotic in a context of all that is wholesome and most deeply human, and not to allow it to wreak havoc on the human life by escaping its proper time and place. Again, the Song of Solomon gives us this ideal of what romantic relationships should look like, and Provane says that we need to make sure that we don't allow our world to wreak havoc on our lives by escaping God's proper time and place. And the Song of Solomon is showing us what God's proper place and time looks like. And sexual intimacy is only allowable within the context of marriage. And he's challenging us to do it God's way. Now, let me just contrast and compare before we get to the Coram Deo and our Q&A time. the person you choose to date. This is from last week, the 4 bullet points. Dating is observation. Dating is time allotment. It's an end in and of itself. It's a no strings attached, non-exclusive enterprise. Dating is marketing. Now, here's how courtship is different. Courtship is involvement. It is exclusive. Courtship is directional. It's moving towards something, right? And it's moving either toward a breakup or it's moving toward marriage. Those are the only 2 options. Courtship involves some mutual responsibility, more vulnerability, and a great need for trust. Courtship is negotiating the potential sale to a close, whereas dating is simply the marketing enterprise. So these are the principles for courtship and the 4 principles for dating. Tommy Nelson gave us those in his book. Here are the Quorum Dales, and then we'll get to a quick Q&A time. Here's how we live this message out in the presence and before the face of God. I got 4 takeaways for today. Number 1. Courtship is a recognizable season where the relationship blossoms, ripens, and discharges a fragrant scent. It was springtime in their relationship, and it was noticeable, and it was a time of excitement, enthusiasm, and eagerness as the couple came together to grow their relationship. Springtime is a time of growth. Things are growing, they're blossoming, they're budding, they're ripening. And if your relationship is not in a period of growth, something's wrong. Courtship, again, is springtime in the relationship, and you ought to be able to recognize the growth in your relationship. Number 2, we have to call out and catch the small foxes that wreak havoc in our relational vineyards. That caution in 2:15, may it live with us indefinitely, because you have to do the work to keep the foxes out of your relational vineyard, or they will destroy your relationship. And it's on us to do that. Number 3, the unshakable security that this couple possesses. My love is mine and I am his. This is God's divine design for relationships that are progressing toward marriage. We need to be moving in that direction. Is that authentic? Is it genuine? Are we faking that? Do you really belong to each other? Is that person the one who your soul loves? That's how we know we've clearly entered the phase of courtship. And then the 4th, when you love a person, as I just said, with your soul, at the very core of your being, with everything that you are, then you are in that season matriculating and progressing toward marriage. God, we thank you for this word. We thank you for Solomon's wisdom, for the nuggets that we've enjoyed on today. Give us wisdom about how to apply these things for your glory. Help us to be a reservoir of wisdom for our kids, for our nieces, our nephews, for people in our relational world who are in relationships, who are struggling or who have questions. God, may we take what Solomon is teaching us and may we pour it into others who are asking questions about how do I navigate attraction, dating, and courtship? How do I do that God's way? I want to be blessed by God. How do I do this? God, may we step up and say, oh, let me teach you what the ideal that Solomon has laid out. This is God's divine design. Do it this way. God, your ways are countercultural. People will laugh at us. They'll make fun of us. They'll ridicule us. They'll ostracize us because what you're advocating through Solomon and his lover is countercultural to American society and culture. They'd laugh us out of any place if we were teaching these principles. But God, may you allow our relationships to flourish when we make a commitment to follow Jesus, your divine design. So God, we want to make a commitment to do that. Even for those of us that are married, we can learn something even from this courtship. How do we court our wives and our husbands again? How do we show that eagerness, that excitement, that enthusiasm, even after we've been married for 5 years, 15 years, 25 years? How do we get that back? How do we rekindle that? How do we get springtime back in our relationship? So God, show us. This is relevant for all of us. So have your way, God. We thank you in Jesus' name. Amen.